Hey you! You're watching a highlight from the DynamiteGizmo podcast. This is not the full episode. It is just a clip. But if you want to watch the full episode, make sure to click right here. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. Do it right now. Time for the moment you've all been waiting for. This is the main event of the evening. Fighting into the red corner, Sean Gung Strickland. I wonder if Bruce Buffer is going to call Sean Strickland Tarzan, because Sean doesn't want that nickname anymore, and rightfully so. Anyway, take a look at the screen over here. This is a UFC fight prediction sheet that I create. Don't worry about the green circles. Those are for me right here in this exact moment. This sheet is used to vote for the winners that you predict for each bout throughout the night. I create these sheets. This is my creation from scratch. The only thing I didn't do was take pictures of the fighters. I have made these sheets available for any of you guys if you're interested. Link is in the description to the Google Drive. Go to that Google Drive, download the sheet, print it off. Print off 20 copies. Invite people over to have a UFC fucking fight night. Okay? Enjoy yourselves. As you can see, there's check boxes here. You can check to vote and who won, and then if it's a draw, you check that off. It's got pictures of the fighters, their country flags, their rank, their country, their record, their nicknames, their odds, their names, the bout, and the order in which the fights are in. Link is in the description. Write your name, check it off out of 3. Boppity boopity. These are perfect. For anyone, whether you're a fight fan or not, you can utilize these sheets to your advantage. Now, let's get into my fight predictions. As you can see, most of these guys still say 0 and even. That's because at the time of this recording, their betting odds have not been updated yet. Okay? But let's get into who I want where. Let me just scoop this over here so I can see. Okay. So the first fight of the night, we got Hyun Sung Park versus Nyam Jongarl Tamandembarel. I probably butchered that. So the first fight of the night, like I said, we have 6 guys in here who are undefeated, and Park happens to be one of them, the South Korean madman. Just kidding. His name is Peace of Mind. It's Peace of Mind against Art of Knockout. So Park is 9-0. He's been in the UFC already. This is not his debut. 2 wins in the UFC, 4 wins by KO, 4 wins by submission, and 1 by decision. 2 of those wins were in the UFC. The guy he's fighting is 8-1, and he's had 1 loss in the UFC. There's not really much else you can say about him, so I'm going to go ahead. Whoops. Let me just shut some stuff off here. I'm going to go ahead and vote for Peace of Mind. I think this guy is going to take it. Next fight of the night, we've got Kwan Salkield versus Anshul Jubli. Now, Quaylon is an Australian boy, so it's good to see him on in his hometown fighting for his country, like a real rebel that he is. This is his UFC debut. He is one of the debuters of tonight. He has 1 win in the UFC or Dana White Contender Series. The guy he's fighting, Anshul, is 7-1. So both these guys have the exact same fight record. 7-1 and 7-1. Anshul has 1 win and 1 loss in the UFC. So really, these guys are kind of neck and neck, the same boys. So when it comes to a situation like this, I'm going to go for the Australian guy because I want to see him win. Okay? Next fight of the night, we've got a welterweight bout, not belt. Jonathan McAuliffe versus Kevin Josette. This is the guy that we were talking about earlier. Remember this French motherfucker who lost against Battle? So Kevin Josette, he is 10-3, 2 wins and 1 loss in the UFC. That 1 loss was against Brian Battle. And also I need to mention that Kevin also fought on the Adesanya and Strickland card. So this is twice he's been on the Strickland fucking title card. Okay? There's a couple guys on these cards who have been on both. One of the guys on here, I think it's Jenkins, he's been on all 3. But anyway, we're not talking about him yet. And the other guy, McAuliffe, Jonathan McAuliffe. This is his UFC debut. So this is another debut boy. And he's also 7-1, as same as the last 2 guys. He did have 1 win in the Dynamite Contender Series. So yeah, this would be really redeeming for Kevin Josette if he wins tonight. I keep saying tonight. If he wins during the fight. He's a French man. Okay? And he's fighting an Australian. So if the captain loses, it's going to be painful for him. And it's hard for me to vote against someone in their home country, but I would like to see Kevin Josette take this win back and get his career back on path. Now, mind you, his nickname is Air. I don't know what that's all about, but he can do better, I would think. Anyway, next fight, we have Rong Su, which, by the way, that is just his name. He doesn't have a first name. He doesn't have a last name. He just has a name, and it's Rong Zhu. Against Cody Steele. Now, Rong Zhu, check this out. This guy's from China, all right? He's Chinese. The guy's only 24 years old, and he already has a 25-6 record. Like, are you kidding me, dude? How the fuck has this 24-year-old feller has had these many fights? I hope I got that statistic right, because that just seems crazy to me. Oh, shit, and I just realized I got his fucking... Did I get it? This says 24-6. It's supposed to say 25. 25-6, dude. For Rong Zhu. He has fought in the UFC, but here's the thing. He's only had 1 win in the UFC and 3 losses. He's a knockout boy. He likes to go for knockouts. The guy he's fighting is another undefeated man, 7-0. And this is this guy's debut as well, Cody Steele. This is his debut. He also goes for knockouts. So this might be a nice little war that we get to see. All right? Sometimes you get really good wars in the early prelims, and this might be one of them. And you might be thinking, well, are you going to go for Rong Zhu because he's had so many fights? No, I don't think so. I think I'm going to go for Cody Steele. I think this guy's been around the block too long, and this guy's going to come in and he's going to mop the floor with him. But we'll see. Now, here's the fight that people are waiting for. So, it's Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria. Colby Thickness versus Alexandre Topuria. Okay? This is a tough one. Because Colby Thickness... Slickness is undefeated. He's 7-0. Another 7-0. There's so many 7-0s or 7-1s on this card. And he's Australian. And he's under Volk. So he's got all these things that really want to make you push for him. You really want to root for him. But then you've got the El Conquistador, who is Ilia Toporia's brother. And he is 5-1. Both these guys, it's their UFC debut. Now, I should also mention, both of these guys are also on a 3-fight win streak. Again, it's a close matchup. Everything in our power wants us to go for slickness. But something's telling me that Alexandre Topuria is going to win. So unfortunately, I'm going to vote for him, but I want him to win. Okay, let's move on. We got Kong versus Brazil. Now, there's not a whole lot I got to say about this. Kong Wang Kong is 6-1. Has 1 win and 1 loss in the UFC. She also, I should mention, has 1 win in amateur kickboxing against Valentina Shevchenko. Isn't that crazy? But then Bruna Brazil, this girl, she's a badass. We know her. She trains with the fighting nerds. I mean, as soon as you say that, you're like, okay, I don't even know. Say no more. It's going to be her, okay? She has 2 wins and 2 losses in the UFC. Well, so, but I am still confident that the special one is going to take this, but we'll see. You got to also remember the co-main event is, what's her name? Wele Shang, whatever the fuck her name is. She's Chinese as well, so the Chinese people are representing tonight as well. It's China versus Australia. Kind of. Anyway, next fight. We got Tom Nolan versus Vyacheslav Borshev. Russian versus Australian. Tom, the big train here, he's 8-1. Slava Claus is 8-4. So again, a pretty close matchup. Big train here. He's had 2 wins, 1 loss in the UFC. He did have a win on the Contender Series. A lot of Contender Series guys here tonight. And then this Russian dude, Slava Claus, 3 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw in the UFC. But he's usually winning by decision. He's not getting a lot of KOs. He's not getting a lot of submissions. His wins are mostly by decision, whereas Tom Nolan, he's getting shit done. He's coming in there and he's knocking. Whoops. I'm moving shit. He's coming in there and he's knocking boots. So because he's Australian, because he's knocking boots, because he's up against this guy, even though he is Russian, I still think Tom Nolan's going to take the cake on this one. Now we've got Jack Jenkins versus Gabriel Santos. Brazilian versus Australian. You see a Brazilian, you usually want to go for it. But Jack is Australian, fighting in his home country. He's 13-3, 3 wins, 1 loss in the UFC. He also was a Contender Series man. And this is the guy that I was talking about earlier. He has fought on Adesanya versus Strickland, Duplessis versus Adesanya, and now Duplessis versus Strickland too. This guy has been on every card, and he's won every fight that he's been on those cards. Just kidding. I don't know if that's true. But I think that is a nice Krispy Kreme factor to really push this guy to get us a good win, my friend. And when you look at Gabriel, he's 11-2. He's had 1 win, 2 losses in the UFC. He's not off to a great start. All right, main card. Here we go. We've got Jake Matthews versus Francisco Prado. Jake is 20-7. 13 wins and 7 losses in the UFC. So this guy has been around. He's also Australian. Franny, the Fran boy, is 12-2. He's had exactly 6 KOs and 6 submissions. It's not bad. 1 win, 2 losses in the UFC. This one's a real toss-up as well. It could go either way. It was a tough choice for me. But I think I'm going to go for Jake Matthews just to keep it on that Australian streak. I know I didn't pick all Australians, but I think for this one I'm going to pick him. Next, we've got Jimmy the Brute Crute versus Rodolfo Bellato. Australia versus Brazil again. We have a lot of Australian versus Brazil on here. Jimmy is 12-4-1, 4 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw in the UFC. He was also a Contender Series boy. Lost his last 4 fights. But, mind you, he was up against fucking killers, dude. His last 4 fights were against Jamal Hill, Anthony Smith, and Alonzo Menfield twice. Okay? Once was a loss, the other was a draw. So although he did lose his last 4 fights in a row, those were the guys he was up against. So it's like, okay. He did have a win against Paul Craig, though, so there is that. And then Rodolfo is 12-2-0, 1 win in the UFC. And he was on the Contender Series twice, by the way, this guy. 1 win and 1 loss in the Contender Series. He's a thick Brazilian. The guy looks like a fucking troll or something. The guy is huge and thick. But the exact opposite of Jimmy the Brute Crute, he has won his last 4 fights in a row. So I am going to go for the Brazilian on this one. This is one that I'm going against, the Brute. Okay, Justin Tafa versus Taliesin Texeira. Justin is 7-4-0, has only ever won by KO. He has not won by submission. He has not won by decision. He has not won by TKO. He has only won by knockouts. That is it. 4 wins, 4 losses, 1 no contest in the UFC. He is a New Zealand boy. Okay, so we're kind of close to Australia. And then Taliesin Texeira, this is his debut into the UFC. He was a Contender Series feller. He has 6 wins by knockout and 1 by submission. So they both have 7 wins. They're both kind of knockout artists. They have a very close record. And even though Justin's been around in this, I'm going to also give it to the Brazilian man. I think he has a chance, and I hope he takes this opportunity to really excel his career in the UFC with his debut being that night. Okay, Zhang Weili versus Tatiana Suarez, the most beautiful woman in the UFC. Zhang is 25-3-0, 9 wins, 2 losses in the UFC, current world champ. Compared to Tatiana Suarez, she is a fucking mouse. It's crazy how small this woman is. And Tatiana is a fucking giant. I don't know how the hell they're in the same weight class. And Tatiana is 10. Why do I have the numbers wrong? Is she 10 or 11-0? Every website has a different fucking number. Is she 11-0 or 10-0? I really gotta know now, because this is the co-main event, and I don't want to fuck this up. So what the hell is she? 11-0 or 10-0? She's 11-0. Okay, so I got this wrong. She's 11-0, not 10-0. All right? And she has 7 wins in the UFC. Now, I'm not saying Zhang Weili is a slouch by any means. She can fight. But when you look at Tatiana Suarez, this girl is a giant. Okay? I think she's just going to get on top of Zhang Weili and fucking sit on her face and give her a good boof. And it's going to be over. Now, main event. Do I even really need to say anything? We already know what's going on. But let me just go over it anyway. Drickus, 22-2, 8 wins, 0 losses in the UFC. Pretty crazy. He beat Izzy, Strickland, Whitaker, Brunson, Till, Tavere. How do you say that? Tavere? He's the current world champ. Took it from Strickland. Now Strickland's coming back for revenge. Strickland is 29-6, 16 wins, and 6 losses in the UFC. His only real big names that he's beaten in the UFC are Paulo Costa and Izzy. Other than that, there's no really other big names except for Imavov, who just beat Izzy. But Izzy's in his downward spiral right now, so here's the thing. I'm doing a Sean's. Here's the thing, guys. I think Du Plessis is going to take it. But I want Sean Strickland to win to fight Khamzat. We've already went over that. That's how I want it to go. So because of that reason, I am going to vote for Sean Strickland, but I think Du Plessis is going to win.
Tap here to watch the full episode of the Dynamite Gizmo podcast.